More Filipinos were able to gather for Christmas this year amid looser border restrictions in the country. But overseas, many individuals welcomed Christmas in hospitals as Omicron continues to hold. In an unusually personal Christmas message to the nation, Queen Elizabeth admitted it's tough having her first Christmas without the late Prince Philip. Two more members of pop boy group BTS tested positive for COVID-19 upon returning to South Korea from the United States. And the PBA action resumes tonight after the much anticipated Christmas Classico turned out into a blowout. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know to jumpstart your Sunday. I'm Riza Diaz. Many families spent Christmas Day outside of their homes, feeding the holiday spirit amid the pandemic. JC Cosico with a story.
It's a day out for most Filipino families this Christmas. The Padilla family for one attended Christmas Day masses at the St. Pancratius Chapel in Paco Park, Manila.
Before sa family, magtipon-tipon, talagang magsisimba muna.
Some parents like Nes Custodio tagged their children along.
So naghanap kami ng simbahan na medyo konti ang tao. So we decided dito sa Paco Park at saka al fresco para kumbaga safe eh.
Over at the Rizal Park, long lines welcomed guests at the entrance. Inside Luneta, kids were seen playing. Many also took photos with a giant Christmas tree and the Rizal Monument. 66-year-old Udenya Sumagaysay from Imus, Cavite, meanwhile enjoyed watching the fountain.
Maganda. Nakaka-relax. Dito ang gusto namin kasi bihira lang kami makarating dito.
Many families brought meals and had picnic at Pork. There were also those who came all the way from the province, just like the Noliedo family from Infanta, Quezon.
First time lang namin kami nagpunta rito eh. Okay. First time lang kami. Tapos nagkakuha nilang pamilya na dito mag-Christmas.
For vendors, this is the opportunity to be able to bounce back from their losses during lockdowns.
Siyempre, nakabalik tayo, at least kumikita tayo, hindi gaya ng dati na parang nag-iisip ka kung anong papakain mo sa pamilya mo.
Only 3,000 visitors are allowed to enter the Rizal Park at a time for physical distancing. Those aged 18 and below must be accompanied by their parent or guardian. People are allowed to visit regardless of vaccination status from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. For News 5, JC Cosico, We Are One News.
More Filipinos are able to celebrate the holidays with extended families when even amid the pandemic. This as restrictions become relatively lighter this Christmas season compared to last year. More in this report.
Due to a relatively better COVID-19 situation compared to last year's Christmas, more and more families are able to get together this year. But the festivities still feel a bit different from the pre-pandemic Christmas gatherings. With more relaxed restrictions at our provincial borders, Rosita, 88 years old, is glad that she's able to travel all the way from Nueva Vizcaya to visit her family in San Mateo, Rizal. She and her immediate family had a 7-hour drive to surprise her siblings.
I am very grateful and happy to meet my only living sister and brother. This is the only time maybe because I cannot tell how long I will still live.
Her sister Davina said this Christmas visit is very meaningful for them, especially after 4 of their family members had the COVID-19 infection this year.
Grateful and blessed kumbaga kasi this is the only time na magkita-kita uli ang mga relatives and close friends from any part of the globe. I wish also na they would still celebrate several Christmases tayo sama-sama uli na walang sakit or ano pa man.
And her only wish this year is to have more Christmas celebrations with her siblings and the rest of their family.
Observe the protocols. Oo, tapos siguro we should be always be aware of yung social distancing, di ba? Yan, ito. Like we are doing now.
This family, meanwhile, is glad that their children are now able to gather and play around, especially after months of restrictions. But amid the continuous threat of COVID-19, they admit that this year's gathering is still different from the pre-pandemic celebrations, noting the fact that we cannot touch or kiss our loved ones' faces or even hug each other, which used to be normal for a Filipino family.
Hindi na katulad dati na as a family, nakakapag-group hug tayo sa mga friends, no? Syempre lalo na sa mga bata din, no? Hindi ka na talaga makapaghalik, lalo na sa mga maliliit.
Thus, as part of precautionary measures, they made sure that all adults are now fully vaccinated and they just travel from point to point whenever they visit each other. Plus, the continuous compliance with minimum health standards. Since the country is now under low risk of infection, health authorities say small gatherings are allowed among families, but they remind everyone to avoid complacency amid the threat of the Omicron variant. Sam Tirante, we are One News.
Checking in on how the rest of the world celebrated this year's Christmas. In Italy, the community of SANT'EGIDIO organized a Christmas lunch at the Church of Santa Maria in Trastevere for Rome's poor and needy. However, due to the pandemic, volunteers wore protective masks while delivering gifts and meals to people in a socially distanced manner. In India, an artist created a giant Santa Claus sculpture made of sand, roses, and other flowers to mark Christmas on Saturday. A sand artist built a 50 feet long installation at the beach with the message, "Enjoy your Christmas with COVID guideline." 5,400 red roses were used in creating the sculpture, which took 8 hours of carving and 2 days of preparation. Meanwhile, in Germany, dozens of people dressed in Christmas costumes challenged the cold temperatures to take a dip in Berlin's Orankesi Lake. Now, people of all ages sang Christmas carols together right before they jumped into the freezing lake with water temperatures around 3 degrees Celsius. Most who joined this year's iteration of the annual tradition were members of the Berlin Seals Swimming Club. Now, the club has been doing this for decades and has around 70 winter swimmers. While the sport had been around since the 1920s and is only becoming increasingly popular year by year. And Britain's Queen Elizabeth spoke about her late husband, Prince Philip, in an unusually personal Christmas message to the nation. Queen Elizabeth said that while Christmas is a time of happiness, it could be hard for those who had lost loved ones like herself, who is spending her first Christmas after the death of her husband. The Queen said that Prince Philip would want his family to enjoy Christmas and there would be joy for them despite the absence of his familiar laugh.
His sense of service, intellectual curiosity, and capacity to squeeze fun out of any situation were all irrepressible. That mischievous, inquiring twinkle was as bright at the end as when I first set eyes on him. But life, of course, consists of final partings as well as first meetings. And as much as I and my family miss him, I know he would want us to enjoy Christmas.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. also watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Now, with the spread of the Omicron variant, this is what it's like to spend Christmas in one of France's biggest COVID-19 wards. Let's watch this.
Le fait que je ne me suis pas fait vacciner, ça m'a fait beaucoup réfléchir. Et si j'avais été vacciné, j'aurais pas été à ce niveau de réanimation. Donc le vaccin, c'est pas un danger, c'est une possibilité d'échapper à quelque chose de plus grave.
Cette semaine, je me suis vue veuve. Hein. Cette semaine, j'ai cru que j'allais le perdre. Je vous dis, j'ai cru que j'allais le perdre. Donc le vaccin, faut arrêter de croire que c'est pas ni nécessaire ni c'est pas que c'est pas nécessaire, c'est indispensable.
On est tous fatigués, il y a des vagues de fatigue comme des vagues épidémiques, donc on en a marre, hein, on en a marre, mais bon, on est toujours, on va dire, concentré à faire notre travail de la même manière et d'essayer d'apporter les mêmes soins avec la même qualité aux patients au fil de l'eau. Mais plus on avance et plus les gens sont fatigués, plus on perd des soignants également. Il y a beaucoup de soignants qui sont partis, des soignants qualifiés en réanimation qui sont partis, et ça rend notre travail au quotidien encore plus difficile. Si le variant Omicron entraîne autant de formes sévères que les variants précédents, il fera probablement exploser les hôpitaux, je pense. Ouais. Tout à fait, parce qu'on est déjà en tension, avec très peu de places disponibles, et vu le nombre de contaminations prévues, plus de 100 000 contaminations par jour hein, en fin d'année, si vraiment il y a autant de formes sévères qu'avec les variants précédents, à l'hôpital on risque très certainement d'être débordé.
Three members of a pop group BTS tested positive for COVID-19 following their return from the United States. According to their management company, Big Hit Music, RM, Jin, and Suga were all diagnosed with COVID-19 after their successful pandemic-era concert in the States. They add that all three had completed second doses of a COVID vaccine in August. Suga tested positive while doing self-quarantine. RM and Jin initially tested negative upon returning to South Korea earlier this month. RM tested positive as he prepared to leave mandatory quarantine, but he is not showing any symptoms. Meanwhile, Jin tested negative a second time as he left quarantine. However, he was later diagnosed after experiencing mild symptoms. Their management said that the three had not been in contact with the other four members. Thousands of fans watched the PBA games during Christmas Day yesterday at the Smart Araneta Coliseum. In the first game, Phoenix won against NLEX even without Paul Harris, 102-93. Phoenix locals picked up the slack after Harris went down with an injury just less than 3 minutes off the game. NLEX momentarily snatched the lead in the third quarter, but the Fuel Masters leaned on Jason Perkins and Chris Banquero to retake the hold and the lead until the final buzzer. This is the first loss of the Road Warriors in the 2021 PBA Governors Cup. Now, in the much-anticipated Christmas Classico, the Magnolia Hotshots beat defending champions Barangay Ginebra, handing the Kings their first loss in the conference. The highly anticipated second game ended up in a holiday blowout as Magnolia toppled Ginebra 117-94. The Gin Kings tried to cut down their deficit during the fourth period, with Arvin Tolentino connecting for 4 triples in the final quarter. However, this was not enough as Magnolia answered with threes from Paul Lee, Rome De La Rosa, and import Mike Harris. Magnolia and Ginebra will face each other again in January 2022. And the action continues today as Terra Firma Jeep will face San Miguel at 4 p.m. Then TNT Tropa Giga will battle it out with rain or shine for the main game at 6:45 p.m. And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later again at 9 in the morning as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch the news on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.